Okay.
Okay, we can go forward. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First, before we move forward, I would like to focus our thoughts on the people that were in the campground on Saturday night in that devastating storm. I know that Calvin Township, as well as our township, they have experienced quite a lot of damage. And I haven't confirmed this, but I understand that Pikwakanagan and Golden Lake were hit by the storm as well. That's the end of or not the end of our traditional territory, but it is the reserve in our traditional territory, Algonquin territory. So I haven't found out to what degree the damage has done to the reserve, but I would like to send all the best from our council and hope that they're coping with it as well. And then just take a moment, I would like to thank everybody that's involved in getting us back to normal. I would like to thank our staff, our emergency control group, and the workers out there in that hot weather today. I know that they have lots of cold water, I understand from Alex, and they certainly need it. So I just wanted to touch on it a bit. It's pretty devastating for everyone. I'm sure emotions and very emotional for especially people that had children and people who didn't have children, right, Jason?
Right.
And so I just wanted to have everybody here think of these people. And since Jason was in the park, I'd like to offer him our thoughts as well to you and your family.
Thanks, Your Worship. Appreciate that.
Okay. Now, where did I go? Do I have a motion? Do I have motions for the adoption of the agenda?
Could we start
Mover
with
and a
opening of the
seconder.
meeting, please? Could we open the meeting?
Oh,
I'd like a mover and a
I
seconder.
forgot to call an order to order. Okay, I'd like to call a meeting to order. I spoke before we called it to order. Could I have a mover and a seconder?
Moved by Councillor Featherstone, seconded by Councillor Corbett, that this meeting be opened at
7:05.
7:05.
All in favor? Carried. Next, we have the adoption of the agenda. Do we have a mover and a seconder?
Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor McInnes, that the agenda presented to council and dated the 24th day of June 2025 be adopted as amended to add item 9B, declaration of state of emergency.
All in favor? Carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof? Do we have a mover and a seconder for the adoption of our previous minutes?
Moved by Councillor Corbett, seconded by Councillor McInnes, that the minutes of the regular council meeting of June 10th, 2025 be adopted as circulated.
All in favor? Carried. Next, we have presentation and delegation. Jessica Dion, CPA, Baker Tilly, 2024 financial report.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I want to thank, first, I want to thank council for your confidence in Baker Tilly. Just give me a second. I just have a few intros. Is it okay if I say a few intros? Yeah, well, yeah, Nikki and Andre, I wanna thank you. I'm the one up here, speaking to you tonight, presenting your financial statements, but it is truly a team effort. I can't be here tonight without their assistance. And, I've also brought with me one of our team members, Melissa D'Souza. She actually, was working on your audit this, she worked very, very closely with Andre. So, thank you to management. And you're gonna notice I'm not your typical auditor. I like to do things a little different, starting with your financial report. And I do have a joke for you. So what do actuaries do to liven up a party? They invite an accountant. Yeah, we're cool, eh? Okay, that's it. Maybe let's start my own comedy. So what I've done here, our financial statements are really long, they're dry. I understand that. I've tried to make them a little more easy to read. I have some people like listening, so if you want to sit back and listen to my presentation, if you prefer reading, all my notes are there. So I kind of captures kind of all my audiences. And if you're like, what did she say? You can go back. So these are an excerpt of your financial statement. So everything in here comes directly from your financial statement. So there's no other than my speaking notes. That's the only thing that's been added here. Can we go to the next page? So what I'll do is I'll bring you through some financial statement schedules. And I know that the budget, the actuals, I think what's, in my opinion, most interesting to council, I know you got to go through the financial statements because it's your duty, but how did you do compared to budget? And we take these accounting numbers and we mish them and mash them and you're like, what does that mean for me? So I've taken my accounting numbers, put it back into your budgeted format. And then you prepare something called a financial information return every year. This is submitted to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. They take all that data, spit it out, give it back to you. I've taken some benchmarks that I think are of interest to council, and I'll present them to you and what it means for you. We'll start with my independent auditor's report. So we've issued, assuming council approves them, we'll be issuing our independent auditor's report tonight, without a modification. It's a clean audit opinion. Your financial statements present fairly the financial position of the Township of Bonfield at December 31st, 2024. I think it is important to note, last year, your auditor, I put it on modified opinion, but they actually qualified your opinion because you didn't adopt. There's a new accounting standard called asset retirement obligations. So last year, the township did not adopt that standard. This year you have. The township has adopted it. It does not change your reserves, but it does change the way you do accounting. So if I may, in a nutshell, you have your landfill under the old accounting standards. It's going to cost me, I'm going to use round numbers here. These are not your real numbers, but $1 million to close your landfill. So every year, say your landfill is good for 50 years, you take 1/50th and you add that cost up. So in 50 years, okay.
You just realized we're not recording.
Oh, sorry.
So you have to start over.
Even with your joke.
You remember my joke?
Start with
You share.
Pablo was like, what kind of monitor is this? Sorry.
Oh dear.
So we may not be able to share.
Do both.
Now we're recording.
Okay. Oh my God, oh, don't do that.
Everyone has that tracking?
Okay, are we still recording?
Yeah,
Yeah.
still do.
Okay,
Does everyone have that document? Does
Yep.
council?
Yep.
So basically, say your landfill lasts for 50 years, you take 1/50. So in 50 years, you're gonna have $1 million sitting there. Well, the accounting standards say, no, that's not, we're gonna change it. You're gonna record the whole cut, that $1 million, you're gonna record it today, but in today's dollars. So we do, this is where the math, I'm not a mathematician, I'm an auditor. So this is the finance, those are the actuaries, finance people. So we take, what's it gonna cost you today? Value it all the way to the future and then bring it back to today's dollars. So we inflate it and then we discount it to get to it. So that $1 million today, so in your case, I actually have real numbers. In Bonfield's case, your landfill at 2023 was the accounting value, the liability that was going to cost you to close it was $264,000. We've taken it at the same point in time at December 31st, 2023. So we go back 1 year and the liability is now $920,000. 2,000. So every year we're gonna incrementally increase it as opposed to, so at the end of the time, we're gonna get to the same number, but how we get there, kind of recognizing more today and less tomorrow. That was one piece of the accounting standard. The other piece of the accounting standard tells you that if there is some sort of regulation out there that says you must take this asset and remediate it to discontinue its use, we have to record it. A prime example, I think that one that everyone knows is asbestos. We spoke with Nikki. She did some analysis and research. They're fairly confident there's no asbestos in your building. Wells, your drinking water wells, we need to assign, there are regulations that if you want to decommission them, how they must be decommissioned. Also your septic tanks. If you have fuel tanks, there's environmental regulations that say this is how you shall dispose of them. From an accounting perspective, the accounting standards tell us that we have to set up the cost today that it's going to cost to decommission them. So Nikki, there's many ways to do this. You can hire an engineer and then get very precise costs. There are a lot of engineering consultants who will do, they do kind of like a stop. They won't actually go and take samples, but based on their expertise and analysis, they'll give you a cost. And then there's a way we did it. So I'm the auditor, full disclosure, for 5 school boards. The province of Ontario, all the school boards in Ontario had to go through this exercise. We got all this data from them, all these costs. They're like, if you have a well that's 6 inches, I put my feet in inches up, 6 inches, and it's this deep, it's going to cost you this number of dollars to decommission. We're like, hey, and everyone across the province uses this, and the Auditor General has approved and vetted these costs. Why reinvent the wheel? Like, there is a cost to do this, but you meet the accounting standards while keeping your costs as low as possible. So we recommended that route to Nikki. So there's a lot of different ways. So we feel like it's an estimate. I think as we all know, are you ever going to decommission a well? Are you ever? But you have to follow that. So now you are fully in compliance with the accounting standards. So we changed your 2023 comparative numbers, and then we go forward. It did not impact your reserves because these are all accounting. I'm going to call them accounting, what I refer to as accounting entries. That's not in my comparative analysis report, but that's in your financial statements. There's 2 pages of data that shows your old numbers and your new numbers and all that fun stuff. So now, so I did say we're issuing non-modified opinions. Now we're going to go to the statement of financial position. This is a snapshot in time of the township's financial position at December 31st, 2024. So I'm going to ask you a question. Do you want me to go through all the lines or just kind of the major ones? What was your preferred approach for this? Because I could, you get the Coles notes or you can get a really detailed. Is there any preference here?
I'm fine with the Coles notes,
Yeah,
honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have it all, because I could speak for hours. Okay, that's why I want to. So you have total financial assets, items that can be converted into cash of $3,511,000. It did go up by approximately $685,000. The main reason was you had an annual surplus and you received grants that weren't used, so that's money sitting in your bank account. And if you want more detail, please, absolutely. Liabilities, so this is the funds that you owe to others. So it's comprised of your day-to-day trade payables. It's comprised of your deferred revenue. So you receive OSIF, NORDS, the CCBF, also formerly known as the gas tax. Those funds you received, you didn't spend them yet. So we set them aside until the year that you're actually going to use them. And we have municipal debt, which is decreased by your capital repayments. I mentioned the asset retirement obligations. All things being equal are just going to increase incrementally every year. So you have net debt of $529,000. And then you have non-financial assets. What that is, that's expenses that you've had in the municipality that are going to last more than one accounting period. So as soon as something lasts more than one accounting period, the accounting standards say that we've got to set it up as a tangible capital asset. So this year, on the books, you have $10,688,000. That's an accounting number. I believe you're working on an asset management plan. I think that number is more relevant. It tells you what the condition of your assets are, when they'll need to be replaced. This is an accounting exercise. However, you did add 600,000 this year. Some of your major additions, compactor, excavator, and the backhoe, and it was offset by amortization, so the usage of time. And also, you dispose, not, you dispose of the limit road. So when you pulverize it from an accounting perspective, we take that value of that road surface off of the accounting records. And you have some different supplies, fuel, gravel, sand on hand. So that gives you an accumulated surplus of 10,306,000. I will take you through your reserves a little bit later in my presentation. All right, look at the consolidated statement of operations. Oh, Nikki, can I borrow a line from you? I think you mentioned that this is your report card. I never thought about it that way before. But like Nikki's like, this is my budget, Jason, this is how I did. So this is,
Do we get an A+?
you can, I'll let you be, A+. So this year, your revenues comprised of taxation, user charges, government grants and transfers, and other revenues such as interest on your taxes and interest on your cash term deposits, and some sale of surplus equipment. The total revenues of 5,411,000. You budgeted 5,129,000. There's a couple reasons for it. So this is $282,000 in revenues, more than you budgeted. Some of the reasons for this, you don't budget supplementary taxes. You typically don't budget for. You don't know what they're going to be from year to year. So that's fairly common in councils. That was 48,000. You received 52,000 surplus in your user charges. There was an increase of contaminated soil received at your landfill site. I would say this is obviously a positive cash flow for the municipality, but also depending on what you're doing with the soil, it could use up your landfill capacity sooner. You know, sometimes it could be used for cover enough, but sometimes it does eat up your capacity of a valuable resource. And then other was $141,000 more than budgeted. Really, this is just the interest rates in 2024 is still taking advantage of some of the legacy rates that were 4% and 5%. So you were able to benefit from that. And it was also, you had the sale of some surplus equipment, and the interest on taxes were higher. It's a pro, but it's a con. Interest received on taxes were higher, but your taxes receivable balance also did go up. I'll show you the implications of that a little later as well. So we look at our expenses. On the statement of operations, we look at them by the different governments, the different segments, general government, protection, transportation, etc. On almost every line, general government, protection services, and transportation services, they're all lower than budget. So general government came in $77,000 lower, protection services $109,000 lower, transportation services $138,000 lower. A lot of this was staff vacancies. So you had budgeted to fill some positions, you weren't able to fill them. And the impact of that is if there's no one to fill them, you also can't do your planned maintenance. So there was budget savings, if you will, or you recognize those savings from the salaries, the vacant positions, but also from the maintenance not being done. So that, we look at all your expenses total, 5,319,000 compared to actual of 4,966,000. That gave you, your expenses were $353,000 less than you budgeted. This gives you an accounting surplus of $636,000. You did receive some, we call them government grants related to capital. So the OSIF, you used a portion of the OSIF funding in your operations this year. Now, from an accounting perspective, that gave you an accounting surplus of $475,000. I'm going to take that in a couple slides and we're going to put that back into a budget number. The next page, this one is way at the back of your financial statements. Or if you're following along, it's called the statement of segmented information. It's your last 2 pages of your financial statements. That takes it takes all your segments, but we look at it by salaries, interest, materials, contracted services, etc. So you'll see salaries and benefits came in at 1.4 million, which was under budget of 156,000. Your materials came in at 1,267,000, which was below budget of 212,000. That's where I mentioned the building maintenance costs were quote. Building maintenance costs and some of the other equipment maintenance costs were below budget. Any questions so far? Okay, now I'm going to get into the reserves, which I will. If you're following along in your financial statements, they are on page 19 at the bottom, note 14, or page 19 of your audited financial statements. So you'll notice in 2024, you're showing reserves of 2,464,000. In 2023, you're showing reserves of 1,640,000. This is where my job gets fun, right, Nikki? So I mentioned you had a number called accumulated surplus, and it's made up of a few things. If you every year that surplus or deficit that the township has, if you don't transfer it to reserves, you're either in a deficit position or you're in a surplus position. 90% of municipalities, council passes a motion that approves management to transfer all surpluses or deficits to a very specific reserve. In 2024, council did that. Council passed a motion before year end saying that it should be transferred to what was it? Reserve and offer,
Tax stabilization.
the 820,000, the tax stabilization reserve. So basically last year you had $600,000 sitting in a general surplus that we've now cleared into a reserve. So on paper, this looks a bit misleading because you have $2.4 million of reserves versus 1.6 million last year. A lot of it was we transferred that 600,000. However, this is not in your financial statements, but it is in my package. I promised you I'd bring you back to your budget, right? That's what we're all interested in. So I said, okay, well, why do I have an accounting surplus of 475,000 when I budget to finish at zero? So I take out all my, we're going to call it accounting numbers, my debt repayment, my amortization, my purchase of capital assets. I'm left with an accounting surplus or a real budget cash surplus of $221,164. That was your true number for a year. That was your true budgeted surplus. That's your true number. Now, if you recall, during the budget process, council decided that they were to maintain operations and control the tax rates, that you were going to take $455,000 out of reserves. So instead of taking $455,000 of reserves, I'm adding 221,000. So that is a change of 676,000. So the township today, compared to your budget, did better by 678,000. How? Supplementary taxes, your landfill fees, and your other revenues that represented a surplus of 280,000. On the expense side, the not being able to fill all the positions that you wanted to, not maybe performing all the maintenance that you had anticipated, you had a savings of 156,000 from wages and 12,000 from the maintenance. That gives me 648,000. I've explained in a very, very quickly of your 670,000. Is that, yeah, we go from accounting to. So that's the presentation on my financial statement. Any questions on kind of that component? So when council, I believe a resolution, I'm asking you to approve those financial statements. Nikki, are you able to, or this is where we get into some of these really nice slides.
If I put it up, then you
can.
the recording.
Okay, but you all have my.
Yeah, they do. They have copies.
Okay, so we have the tax arrears ratio. So I've selected, there's 13 ratios that MMH uses. They take your financial statements, we standardize it, so all 444 municipalities in Ontario follow the same format. All the information I have in here is publicly available data. So once you file it, it becomes publicly available. In December of 2024, we went through and downloaded all the data. That's how we built our database for 2023. So on the right-hand side of your page, I have selected a few townships to compare you to. I think it's natural human behavior that we like to know how our neighbors are doing. We always compare ourselves to our neighbors, whether it's the right thing to do or not. So what I've done here is I've selected Calvin Township, Chisholm Township, East Ferris, Papineau Cameron, and Mattawa to compare, say, how are they doing relative to how you're doing. So on the right-hand side is 2023. Now on the left-hand side is a 5-year average of what your ratios are. So I mentioned your taxes, collected more interest on taxes. Well, your tax arrears are also up. And I should also mention that numbers tell a story. They all somehow line up together and tell. This is telling me is that people are struggling for whatever reasons to pay their taxes. Yes, you are collecting more interest, but this number is going up. Anything less than 10%, so your total taxes receivable divided by the total taxes levied is considered low risk. Bonfield over the last 4 years has been creeping up from 6.69%. Now you're at 9.29%. I understand, you know, like that times are difficult, but think of, I guess, anyone listening to me today, it's the whole township. You know, collecting these taxes, generating that cash flow, you're able to provide more services, you're able to put more into your community. When you have money sitting in tax arrears, you don't have the cash to go do projects, so you might have to borrow and pay interest on that debt. So that's why I think it's important to manage, and I am very sympathetic to, you know, to what I'm saying here. So you want to find kind of that balance. The next page is your total reserves ratio. So this is your reserves divided by a percentage of operating expenses. Now, it looks very high. This year it's 60%. It would have been higher in prior years if you took that general surplus plus your reserves. Now, this doesn't factor it in, but if I'm a lending like a TD Bank's looking at your numbers, they're looking at everything. They're not just looking at this particular ratio. But it did go up because we transferred the general surplus to reserves. Now, when we compare how you are versus your neighbors in 23, Calvin had 39% and Papineau at 61%. I wouldn't say you're an outlier if we normalize those numbers. Anything greater than, if you have reserves of less than 20%, the ministry actually considers that low to be a high risk. Sorry. So you want to hit that at least that minimum 20% rate. The debt servicing ratio. So this is your debt payments, your capital and your interest divided by your total revenues. All things being equal, if there's no new debt and revenues are stable, the ratio will decrease. This year, the less revenues, so we didn't use some of those capital OSIP and ORGs and was deferred, so your revenues went down. So it artificially increases the ratio. However, you're still you're at 5.19%, so it's just a shade over to low risk. Asset consumption ratio, not one of my favorite, but the ministry does look at this. This is the accounting. We take the accounting value. What's the total accumulated amortization? So the total usage divided by the total accounting cost. So right now you're at 57%. The positive news on this side, what this tells me though, you've been reinvesting in the community, in the capital in the community, because I see that ratio declining. The kind of the benchmark, anything lower than 50%. So that's a positive. I see that reinvestment in the numbers. You know, what you're living out there. I kind of live it in pictures, or shiny little graphs. I told you I wasn't traditional. Anyway, your operating surplus ratio finally. So this is your annual surplus or deficit divided by your own revenue. So take out any government grants. What was your surplus? We just look at your taxes, user fees, and other revenues. So it's at 10% this year. Anything greater than -1%. So a small operating deficit is acceptable, and anything less than 1% is a risk. You've been positive for the last 4 years. That is my presentation.
Okay. Any questions? Oh, Jason has lots.
Yeah. Not lots, just one. If we can go back to the tax arrears.
Yep.
And the ratio. You present a graph which is appreciated, but we also get that you tell us that with empathy, understanding the situation, and that any suggestions from an auditing standpoint how we reserve that?
I do. Sorry. A couple of things. You can look at your tax collection policy. Now, I know there are some that is like statutory, like the government dictates what the waiting period is before. But I believe it's a minimum of 2, correct me if I'm wrong, if my facts are wrong, a minimum of 2 years. Some municipalities have a 3-year before they enter the tax collection policy. So you could look at maybe review your tax collection policy. And are you enforcing it? Maybe that's kind of wholehearted to say. What about collection practices? Are you sending out reminder letters? Like, is it once a year? Is it more often? So there are some softer tools that you that you can use. So reviewing your policy is sending out reminders. Maybe having various installment, like work with maybe on an individual taxpayer, work with them to come up with, I know it's not traditional, you know, but these are different ways. Maybe work with them to come up with payment plans that you can't pay it all, but can you pay some to work with each individual? So there are, those are, I call them the softer things. And then the harsher thing are like enforcing, like, you know, once that 2-year period hits, collections, you know. There's outside tax agencies, I know, that help take some of the human, I know it's hard, it's your community, right?
Right.
These are, and I say that in case people are listening, I'm not, I do empathize. So maybe you take that away from yourself, you hire, you know, you outsource kind of that tax collection so that it doesn't become, it's hard. I recognize that. So reviewing that, how often are you going through those, you know, the processes, or even starting it when you're allowed, starting the process, right? It doesn't mean you follow through on the actual possession, but registering it, then at least it starts the clock. So there are a few different, I guess, softer and harsher tools that you have at your disposal.
Not sure if this question is for you or for her staff. Since we have monitored the credit card use, do you find that has led our taxes to become more in arrears or more taxes owing since we changed that?
No, I don't think so. So in the report that I have, under the budget and stuff, I have some stats from 2024. So we still had we had just over 40 people still doing it by credit card. And it was a lot of savings for us by having the surplus on there, but I don't believe that that's going to factor in. We still had over 40 regular credit card payments.
Well, I wondered when you did see the savings, if they weren't using the credit cards but not making the payments.
I think most people, they do get upset when they first found out about the payments and that there were these surcharges that they would have to pay. I think that's why our costs are down, because now they're paying for those surcharges. But if they don't want those fees, then they're just turning to their debit card, or they're doing an e-transfer. I think we're up on e-transfers.
Yeah, e-transfers and direct deposits are up. Credit cards are down.
That's good.
Yeah.
But no one's not paying because they're not putting it on a credit card. Like that, I think that's what you were asking,
Yeah.
right? Whether
Yeah.
the arrears spiked because people were paying it on their credit card and absorbing the debt that way, rather than now we are carrying the debt, but that's not happening.
No, that's not happening.
Okay. So it looks like we're in the middle mostly of our neighbors too, and most of your shiny graphs.
Yes.
We're not at the top and we're
You're
not at the bottom. Yeah. And you didn't do that by design. You just did the comparison, right?
I chose townships around you.
Yeah.
Like the townships with similar services, so you use the OPP. You don't have municipal, like there's no water and sewer,
That's
because that
right.
would skew. 'Cause if you have water and
Right.
sewer, that's really gonna skew your
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah.
So we tried to, also similar tax base. I a lot to say about this, but when you have someone that maybe has a lot of industrial or commercial
Right.
tax base, and you can't compare to someone who has a lot of residential tax base. It's like comparing apples. I could present these ratios to you, but it's really comparing apples to oranges, if you will. So I wanted to select, also they happen to be your neighbors, but they have similar like residential farmland tax base, not a lot of commercial or industrial, so it's not skewing the numbers. They're on a septic and well system. They have volunteer fire departments. You use the OPP for your policing or emergency services. So I wanted to select. So it was by design that I picked your neighbors, but also very thought out, like, are these representative of
Similar.
of your community? Or listen, everyone's unique, but as representative as we can make it.
Thank you.
Okay, any further question? Well, thank you very much, Jessica.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We have a motion.
Yes.
Do I have a mover and a seconder to, for the financial report, to accept the financial report? You have a question?
No,
No.
he wants to move desperately.
Did you get a second?
Okay, Steve wants to move it.
Wow.
Moved by Counselor Featherstone, seconded by Counselor Clark. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Bondfield hereby acknowledges receipt and approves the 2024 consolidated financial statements for the Township of Bondfield as prepared by the firm Baker Tilly SNT LLP, and that council directs the CAO to provide public notice that a copy of the 2024 consolidated financial statements is available at the municipal office and on the township's website in accordance with section 295 of the Municipal Act 2001.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Jessica.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks, Jess.
Good job.
Okay, where are we now? No question period?
No, we're-
Any reports? Staff reports?
No, no,
No? We're good?
throw out the rest of the agenda.
Okay, next we have the adoption of committee minutes and motions. We have the Recreation and Fitness Committee. So we have two motions. Do I have a mover and seconder? And I gotta find my paperwork again. Can I have a mover and seconder? Jason? Dan?
Moved by Counselor Corbett, seconded by Counselor McInnes, whereas the Recreation and Fitness Committee accepted the Bondfield Summer Camp Financial Review Report. Therefore, the committee recommends to council that the Bondfield Summer Camp operate from July 14th to July 18th and August 10th to August 15th, 2025, based on available resources, community interest, and program sustainability. Be it hereby resolved that council approves of this recommendation.
You have a question?
No, man, I just jumped the gun on my.
Always a keener.
Yeah,
Oh, Carrie, right?
Nope.
no, I'm
Okay.
in favor. I'm in favor.
Now you can say Carrie.
Yeah,
Thank you. And we have another motion?
Yes.
Okay. So next we have another motion from Recreation. Do we have a mover and seconder? Steve and Donna?
Moved by Counselor Clark, seconded by Counselor Featherstone, whereas the Recreation and Fitness Committee recommends to council that vulnerable sector checks for volunteers be considered valid for 2 years. Be it hereby resolved that council approves of this recommendation.
All in favor? Carrie? And then we have a report from Donna
Yes.
from the seniors housing.
I just wanted to just give a quick update. There was the official opening of the seniors housing complex on Eric Street. And I just wanted to say thank you to the board, Margot Olescu, Darlene Hope, Philip Patra, Eric Foisey, Lise DeRochner, and of course Descon, for all their hard work that has brought this project to fruition. It's great. As of August 1st, we are at 100% occupancy. So that is just something to celebrate in the township. So I just wanted to say thank you.
it's great news.
Mhm.
That's very good news.
Yes.
And especially it's so beautiful over there, the
Mhm.
housing, it's different, eh?
Yeah.
It's, I think it's great. Good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, next we have the Corporate Services Committee. We have two motions. Do we have a mover and seconder?
Moved by Counselor Corbett, seconded by Counselor McInnes, whereas the Corporate Services Committee accepted the recommendation of option 1 for the building permit fees, additions and changes. And whereas the committee recommends that the public consultation period begin to review the proposed fees, Be it hereby resolved that council approves of this recommendation.
All in favor? Carried. Next, we have a motion from the Corporate Services Committee. Do I have a mover and seconder? Steve, moved by Steve, second by Donna.
I'll read the motion, and I believe the CAO would like to speak with this motion.
Have a bit of a presentation, yes.
Moved by Councillor Featherstone, seconded by Councillor Clark. Whereas the Corporate Services Committee recommends to council to accept the final 2025 draft budget with an overall tax increase of 3%. And whereas the committee recommends that public notice be provided that council will consider the budget for adoption at the June 24th, 2025 council meeting, be it hereby resolved that council approves of this recommendation.
Any question?
Not yet.
We,
Oh.
yeah.
All in favor?
No, we're,
Oh, yeah, I
I
think,
think Nick
I
is
think
gonna
Nikki's
speak
Oh,
to it.
you're going,
I did prepare a presentation. It was a wonderful presentation but if we put it on the TV, then it stops recording the meeting. So we will have to figure out our new technology. So we'll make sure that the presentation and report get on the agenda or on the website tomorrow. And then someone they'll have to follow along with it. So yes, I have some 2025 budget highlights. So basically the budget process includes in reviewing the provincial budget, working together among all municipal departments to obtain work plans, and discussing action plans with council throughout the year to implement the township strategic plan and the related directions. So I had a beautiful slide of you guys have the copy of the strategic plan to remind us that we have the mission, the vision, the guiding principles, and our strategic pillars of responsible government, economic and social development, fiscal prudence, and environmental stewardship, which you'll see those elements throughout this budget. Every budget process also includes public engagement. In the late winter and spring, the township puts out requests for the public to comment on priority concerns, share ideas regarding the township, or provide general feedback. Notices are posted on the township's Facebook page and out with our newsletters. And we also have a number of people who communicate their priorities when they send their tax payments in. This year, we did continue to hear about roads, and I had one comment that came in last week, and that was for Development Road. The resident would like Development Road to be repaired in full quicker than the 4-year plan. So she is preparing a letter and she will be submitting it into council when she's done that. And then as with any small communities, the township of Bonfield relies on senior levels of government to provide operating costs as transfers and payments in lieu to municipalities, as well as for capital projects through one-time grants and ongoing funding. So the township receives $148,000 annually from the Community Building Fund, formerly known as gas tax, $115,000 from the Ontario Community Investment Infrastructure Fund, and $94,400 from the Northern Ontario Resource Development. They are all allocated to only certain expenses that we are allowed, and these are what we would call those deferred incomes. When we receive the money, they go under liability, like the auditor was discussing, and they go in there until the year that we're going to actually do the project. In addition, there's the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, and we receive $779,200 for that program. In the report and at Corporate Services, we went at length on the comparisons that we did, and then the auditor had shared some further comparisons on that. So that can go back and someone can watch the Corporate Services and then read the report. So I'll dive into the departments and kind of more of the specific budgets. I don't need to go through one line, but so general government, that includes both council expenses and administrative operations. In the last quarter of 2024, like these are just some of the administrative operations that we do in the office. So an example is in the last quarter of 2024, our part-time reception staff answered an average of 191 calls per month, with the highest inquiries regarding taxes, planning, and building. So that's an average of 10 calls every 4 hours, with an average of 17% of those calls lasting more than 10 minutes in order to satisfy the residents' inquiry. There were 121 documents produced in relation to property sales with the township. So prior to the purchase of a property, the seller's lawyers or the purchasers asked for tax certificates, zoning, and building confirmation letters, and sometimes a fire report. Then once the property is sold, staff update the property files with the ownership changes and send across all the information to MPAC. In addition to those, in 2024, 78 welcome packages were mailed out to the new property owners. We sold 32 dog tags and only 2 cat tags. With the changes in the user fees for credit cards, as we were mentioning earlier, there were 41 surcharge fees for the year, and this is reflected in the budget with the decrease in banking fees from a 3-year average of $25,675 in actual costs, and that's reduced to $15,000 expected in 2025. There were 23 Freedom of Information requests. 10 of them went to appeal, and only 1 was found to be valid. Staff issued 16 lottery licenses to the nonprofit organizations, allowing local groups to fundraise and provide more opportunities within the community. And those are just a sampling of some of the things that we do. Our next function is the protection to property, to persons and property. So the first department under that is the fire department. So in 2024, the township introduced the fire permit system. There were 145 permits that were issued to campfires with private owners. So we all know that those are valid for the life that the owner has, owns the property. There were approximately 406 hours spent on training by the volunteer firefighters. And this is time spent that the volunteers take away from their families and they give to our community. So we thank them for that. There are currently 16 firefighters within the department, and they responded to 9 fire calls, 42 medical calls, 4 vehicle accidents, and 9 others, which are carbon CO detectors, false alarms, or lines down on the hydro. In 2025, the total costs are $281,115. The budget also proposes the purchase of a trailer to be able to haul the gator to the scenes. And council is continuing their commitment to replace the self-contained breathing apparatus, or the SCBAs, with a $50,000 going into the reserves. That expenditure is expected to be $150,000, so this will be continuing on. The province has also mandated that the fire department train and be qualified to the National Fire Protection Association standards by 2026. So we're on our way, but this year we did increase the training budget, and we did introduce that new pilot project for the training officer. And in 2025, we did appoint that fire chief. As the auditor was saying, we were looking to hire somebody sooner than that, but we weren't able to. So they are in the 2025. The existing fleet for the fire department consists of 9 vehicles, and they include tankers and pumpers, the gator, rescue trucks. The department is still operating the 1989 pumper. So the fleet is aging, and the investment is needed for preventative maintenance, as well as for reserves for those future purchases for the fire department. I think we're showing some of those investments. The second department underneath protection, or we call it PPP, is emergency management. It's been vital these last few days, but we are mandated to have that department through the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. And then we do typically just review the program every year. So in my report, which was before Sunday, 2025, our plan was to go through HIRAs and consequences. And now I think we're doing a full review on the plan, and now that it's been exercised. The next department is the building department. So the building department works with the property owners to realize their projects. The report summarizes the historical permits issued The number of permits being issued are reducing to the pre-pandemic numbers, but the number of single-family dwellings are still being maintained. The value of construction has also grown, and this is due in part to the higher material costs, as well as the size of the projects and new dwellings. The MPAC growth for Bondfield in 2023 was in assessment value 5.9 million or 2%, and the growth for 2024 is 6.7 million or 2.2%. So that's the growth in our assessment, and that certainly helps give us relief on that tax rate increase that we are experiencing this year. And to date, about 18 permits have been issued from the building department, but he does have a very big folder of ones that he's reviewing.
Is that all permits?
Yes. In 2025, council will also be reviewing the building permit fees, as you just passed that motion. I think the public meeting is July 9th for that, but all the materials on the website already for that. The new fees are a result of council adopting new zoning provisions for accessory sheds, containers, hunt camps, and for the additional dwelling units. So these fees help to reduce the cross subsidy that is applied to the minimum fee of single-family dwellings. The new provisions align with the township's housing targets set by the District of Nipissing Social Services Housing Demand Report that was done in 2024. And we are expected to introduce 127 new dwellings by 2035. So that's an average of 12.7 new homes per year. So we have to keep up our single-family dwellings. Our next department under PPP is bylaw services. So the township employs the one part-time bylaw officer. This function up until 2024 included, or 2025, included the North Bay Humane Society for Animal Control and Pound Services. So at contract renewal, the Humane Society board shared that they were divesting of the animal control services and they did not renew that contract. Since that time, the bylaw officer has responded to approximately 5 complaints regarding dogs, and I know that he has issued some tickets for those complaints that are repeat offenders. The OPP continued to deal with the aggressive or dangerous dogs, and the animal welfare services are called for assistance. Staff have also spoken to many third-party agencies, including the Humane Society, Pet Rescues, and Animal Welfare Services to try to control the feral cat program, and that is, or the population, and that's certainly going to take the entire township working together to minimize the cats. We've not had success with any agency coming in to assist us, but we're still trying to work with them. So the next one under PPP is policing. So policing within the township of Bondfield is performed by the Ontario Provincial Police. In 2024, a new police services board was established under the new provincial legislation for the Community Safety and Policing Act, and the township merged with East Ferris and Chisholm to create the new Lake Nosabonsine OPP Detachment Board, which the mayor chairs. The cost of the OPP service is based on a flat fee per household plus the calls for service. So the report does share the calls for services that were experienced over the last, from 2020 to 2023. We don't have 2024 numbers yet. That's why it's not there. And then, so that is PP. So our next department is Public Works. It's an exciting year for the department in 2024 with the purchase of the equipment, as the auditor just explained the impact of that. But it did allow us to ditch over 12 kilometers of the rural roads, brush 11 kilometers of roads, and clear the sight lines throughout the hamlets and the intersections. And we replaced 9 culverts without external contracts. In 2025, the crew will ditch the remainder of line 2, then move on to the Development Road and Maple Road, plus ditching and culvert work on James Street, which I think has already been done, but will be redone. So I'm going through what we had planned to do in 2025, and in the Public Works Department with roads, we don't know what that will look like. We're still recovering, so.
Yeah.
But in 2025, other supply and material costs that we have in the budget are for bridges and culverts. They're about 36,500. Cold patching is 20,000. Interestingly enough, we've been able to reduce that number from like an average, and I don't know where it is, but I know last year it was 40,000. And we put it at 20,000, and that's because we pulverized development road. So we're not constantly going out and throwing the cold patch on. So there's some savings in there, although that was taken from the calcium that we had to put on, right? There's the dust control was the next one. And then the safety signs, the railway crossings are 18,000 again this year, and streetlights are about 13,500. Under the Public Works Department, there's lots of services that they do perform, but grading. So the grader saw the first full year of operations in 2024 with 1,200 hours. That's an additional 100 hours of labor in the grader from the previous years. So the total cost without the debt payments to operate the grader was $36,236, and that works out to $30.20 per hour, and that's down from the 5-year average of $81.80 per hour. But a large portion of that is due to a new grader requiring less repairs, so it's making it a smart investment. Of course, then we have winter operations. So the total cost of those public work services that we just talked about was $526,150 for the budget in 2025. And still under public works, it's broken out into categories. So we still have administration, vehicle, and then public works shop as well. So under administration, those are the like the aggregate license, the computer, the software, the office costs. But it also still includes an additional 48,100 that's going to go to reserves for those future capital purchases. Vehicles and equipment. So in 2024, we had the new drive-on program, which saw the Public Works Garage get licensed, and our contracted licensed mechanic can perform those annual inspections at our township garage now. The 2 plow and dump trucks are in need of some major repairs and updates, and they're estimated to cost about $58,000 between the 2 of them this year. The 5-year average for preventative maintenance is $27,056. So it's expected after initializing a maintenance plan for all of the municipal fleet in 2024 that these costs would increase. The public works shop includes regular heat and hydro building costs. In 2025, there's also an additional $36,500 toward that mold remediation that has to be done in the office, the lunchroom, and the washroom. So the total public works department for 2025 is $1.9 million. The road work and the services offered consume about 35% of the municipal budget. And then the report also breaks down those daily tasks that the public works department does. And then there's environmental services. So the landfill site, the importance of the landfill site cannot be understated. Our auditor mentioned it as well. So to close the site would be $1 million or more. I think the asset retirement on that right now is at $992,000 because we just accepted that new accounting standard. But a new one would cost several $1 million. So that's why we work very hard to maintain the one that we have, and we actively promote recycling to increase the capacity and the lifespan over time. So lots of changes at the landfill site, but it is a very important asset. There's a chart that compares the recycling percentage differences year over year, which shows, with the exception of paper, that since 2021, residents are ensuring the longevity of the site too. So we certainly do have a lot of buy-in on how important that landfill site is. Our next budget is Parks and Recreation. So again, it's broken into different sections. So there's administration, parks and maintenance, and then programs and events. So nearly 50% of the administration fees capture the loan cost for the outdoor rink, and that's that's $19,500. Parks and maintenance, it includes the materials and supplies needed to maintain the parks. It includes improvements and repairs to any of the facilities, and the insurance. Yeah, so for the budget for the parks and maintenance is $30,800. Programs and events, those are the ones that the committee and council actually host. So it's family day celebrations, the Easter egg hunt, Canada Day, the Halloween parade, and the Christmas soup and chili event. They're all well attended in 2024. In 2024, we also had the end of summer celebration, but we know that we have not renewed that for 2025. In 2025, we also received the one-time funding for the Celebrate the Arts in Bonfield. So this included the musical night with Rendezvous in February and the new mural that was just done in the change rooms. So like as feedback is received, the committee is always looking for ways to improve the opportunities, but the budget for programs and events is $24,500. So the total expenses for the Recreation Committee are expected to be $98,400 for 2025. And then we have library services. They are managed through the library board. So we get their budget. Their budget for the year is $104,248. I think we have one of the most active libraries, and we have so much going on. I think they do such a good job over there, but there's the movies, you can rent the magazines, there's computer services. Of course, there's the books, but certainly is a treasure place. Our planning department is very active. I think since 2021, we have had 40 new lots created within the township. So that's a really good sign of the growth and development that's coming to Bonfield. We are still growing, and we will continue to grow. We still have more applications. We have more applications already this year than we did last year. So that's a very good sign as well. Under the municipal or the Planning Act, the township must keep a minimum of a 3-year supply of land for development and ensure appropriate policies are in place to maintain up to a 15-year supply to meet the projected future growth. So I think that we are meeting those targets on what we need to do. And then as the applications increase, then generally building permits do as new residents continue to invest in our community as well. And then there are several levies for regional boards and committees. Most are healthcare related. So in the, for us, it's the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority. We have them under, they do planning reviews as well as with the building department work on septics. So they are attached to a lot of our growth and what they do. So it's a mandated under the Provincial Act, and there's 10 local municipalities that are on that board. And then for other categories, we have the District of Nipissing Social Services Administration Board, the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit, Castle Home, Mattawa Hospital, Physician Recruitment, and then under healthcare, we of course have our own direct Bonfield Medical Center. I think everyone understands that. We have 2 new doctors. We're very fortunate to have 2 doctors. We've set up a new committee to help with that. And in this year's budget, any of that surplus for the medical center is going into a reserve so that we can start to save money, because we like they're bursting at the seams with the services that we're offering, and we want to expand those services. So we need to start saving so that we can future-proof that. Another component in our budget is our cemetery. So we do look after the Mount Pleasant Cemetery. It's a very small budget, but it is an active cemetery. In the budget for debt servicing as well, there is $226,680. And those are for 5 loans that are the grader, the Freightliner, development road culverts, the medical center parking lot, and building upgrades, and the outdoor rink. So each are in each of their departments' budgets. And then of course we have our, I've touched on them because they're in each of those budgets and each of those functions of a municipality. But the levies that we get from the agencies and the boards and the committees, those DSABs and the MPAC and the OPP, the physician recruitment for Mattawa, there is, in 2025 alone, those costs have increased 7%. And we have no choice but to accept those. So it is like 1.3 million that we have no say in. We have to do those. So those are the levies. That does include the capital levy reserve that we're doing for the new build that's going up on Castle Street for Castle Home. So we do have to, I think I mentioned at the Corporate Services Committee meeting that we will get bills in October for that, and they will come out of this reserve because it is built into that reserve that we will. But those are just the interest charges, from the interest rate that was expected to the actual interest rate. So we have to come up with those funds. It'll come from the reserve. And then in 2027, we actually have to start paying that loan back, which will be close to $130,000 a year. So we've built it up. So it's not just a hammer at one budget. It's like not all of a sudden here you have to pay this. So really great investment in future training on that in the budget. But these levies are still a big portion of our budget. So overall, and now I have to go to a different report. Or maybe I can borrow yours.
Yeah, go ahead.
In there, we have each of the department's actual budgets in there. So the overall budget we are doing a levy of $530. It's on slide number 15. That's what our levy is. It works out to a 3.5% expense increase in what we from budget to budget on those expenses. But because of the growth and ratios that we use for different categories in it works out to a 3% tax rate increase. So we're giving a 3% tax increase this year. The impact of that is that a median, and maybe I didn't do this because that was too small. I apologize. So the median percentage impact on that, and the median is for each category or classification, like a single family dwelling, a farmland, a small office building. Those are our seasonal recreational dwellings, so cottage. It's the median, so the property closest to the middle of each of those categories. So a single family home in 2025, the median assessment is $191,000. The taxes for 2025 would be $2,856.91. That's a tax change of $82.72, or a 2.98% increase. And monthly it is $6.89. For a cottage, it would be with an assessment of $224,000. The taxes would be $3,350.52, which is an increase of $97.02, or $8.09 a month. For a small office building, with an assessment of $271,600, then the taxes for the year would be $6,061.47, or $118.42, or a percentage increase of 1.99%. Again, it's because of those ratios that all those percentages are different. So those are the impacts for the median. The average household increase, there will be 1,019 properties will have a dollar increase of less than $100. So that is 65% of our tax base will have less than $100, with the average change actually being $47 for the year. There will be 463 properties with a dollar value change between $100 and $200, and that's an average of $132. There are 9 properties that will have a dollar change between $300 and $500, and that average works out to $328 for the year. So collectively, the average household increase is going to be $82 a year. And any part of the budget impacts, and it speaks to what the auditor was saying as well. So you're getting the message twice today. So I apologize for that, but it is in the report. So Part of our budget impacts is our residential properties are 85% of the total assessment. So this essentially means there's little diversity in Thornfield for the tax base. There are little commercial, there's 1.32% for industrial at 0.15%. To share the impact of the taxes, typically a commercial and industrial are higher than the residential rates. So there's no retail downtown and many businesses are home-based. So we don't have that commercial industrial base that allows us to reduce the residential taxes. So in addition to that, the farmland, we have 2.17% and managed forest is at 0.32%. And they receive a discounted ratio, further adding to the residential properties provision for the tax levy. So they bear that burden as well. So this promotes, but the discounted ratio promotes the agriculture and it's one of our community's largest sectors. So it's very appropriate that we have that. And it's like less than 4%, but it's still there. So we really do need to diversify our tax base and promote more economic development. And that speaks a lot to what council has been focusing on and what the strategic plan is intended to do. Become investment ready, talk to our businesses, learn where their gaps are so that we can start to build up that base to help with those residential properties with their taxes as well. So yeah, so overall budget will be a 3% increase. Are there any questions?
Okay,
Does that disappoint you?
No.
Okay. I can come up. Here.
I feel we've communicated very well throughout this entire
Sure.
process.
We'll just need to
we don't have any motions here.
we
No,
just need to carry the motion to accept the budget.
oh, yeah, because
Oh,
It was red.
you
already.
stopped it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
But we had a mover and seconder, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you like me to
All in
reread?
favor? Carry, kick there. Okay. Then we're going to the Emergency Services Committee. June 16th, 2025. No
motions, no.
motions here. And next we have the items for council
I think Sean,
discussion.
I think
the fire chief has a report.
the
too, I think.
report.
You have the report?
Yes, Your
Okay,
Worship, I do.
under emergency services?
Yes.
Okay,
So this is my report for the time period from May 22nd to June 11th. So it captures my my report of the progress we've made and what we've done over the last 90 days or 120 days now as myself being in position as fire chief. And over that time period, every month I do a report that captures what we do, the amount of calls we go to, what we do as a department in the community every month. So I capture that so that way the residents can see the value that they're getting for the fire department as a whole that responds to any and all calls that may be required of us. Over the reporting period, we responded to 8 calls total, which isn't too bad. It's almost average. We're averaging 9 to 10 calls a month now. So so far this year, we've responded to 44 calls so far for service. And during that time, we have responded to 6 medical, we had the 1 landfill fire, and we had 1 residential alarm. So a residential alarm is anytime the smoke alarms or the carbon monoxide alarms are activated and the resident doesn't know what to do, they'll call us for assistance and we'll come out and we'll ascertain what the cause of the alarm is, whether the smoke alarm itself needs to be replaced because it's greater than 10 years of age, or maybe the battery needs to be replaced, or it could be, as we're starting to see now with the higher humidity, some of the smoke detectors do activate because of higher humidity within the household. So that could activate the smoke alarms as well, even though there is no indication of a fire. So I've been, over the last couple of weeks when we've gone to a call, I've been educating the residents if I've been on scene this is could be the reasons why your smoke alarm or sealed alarm has activated. There, we have achieved no carbon monoxide levels inside your home. So this could be the reasons why your carbon monoxide has activated. The alarm itself, most times it activates because it's out of date. It's greater than 7 years old for carbon monoxide. It's 10 years for smoke, but it's 7 years for carbon monoxide. If you have the dual smoke and carbon monoxide, you go by the lesser lifespan, which is 7 years. So that's usually the typical reason why during a residential alarm that alarms activate, because they've failed, because they've gone past their lifespan. So for 2025, we've responded to 44 calls. We do have currently 16 operational members. I'm also proud to report that I've had 2 more come out for potential staff members as volunteers. So I'll have them come out for another 4 more weeks to see if they're going to be staying with us, so to speak. And then if so, then I will give them an application, get them to do the medical, I'll do an interview with them, and then I will make my recommendation to the emergency committee on whether or not they should be gainfully employed as a member of the volunteer fire department. For our recent training, we do this every week. So every Monday night, we do 3 hours of training from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And we always touch on our EMS because that is the bulk of our calls. The bulk of our calls is EMS. Last year, we did 65 calls for the year. 42 or 65% of that were medical calls. So we're always, every Monday night, we start off with a roll call and then we do the truck checks. We clean the station, i.e. we sweep the bays, make sure that the equipment is clean, ready for operation, and then we go ready to our medical training. So we always touch on scenario-based medical trainings, especially because we have a lot of younger, not age-wise, but seniority-wise members that I need to get them up trained to the NFPA standards for a medical call. For, that way they understand what their role is and what level of service they're going to provide to the resident. We also check our PPE. That's vital. Every time we walk into the hall, I get the guys to check their PPE. We're looking for tears, cuts, rips. It's a still fit. I have categorized electronically all the bunker gear, so I know exactly when they're going to expire and when they need to be replaced. So it's all in the computer system now, and they're all assigned to a firefighter. So I know who has that gear and the date of expiry, and I've set it up where I get a notification 2 years prior to the expiration date, so that way I can budget accordingly down the line. So that way I don't come to the CEO and say, "Oh, I need 10 sets of gear expires this year." So I've set up in the computer system in the station one that I get the notification 2 years prior to the expiration date of the PPE, so that way I can accurately forecast and do my capital budgets based on getting 3, 4, or 5 sets of gear every year. So that way, when the 2 years come up, everybody has brand new gear again for another 10 years. So that's the lifespan of the bunker gear. The jacket and the pants is 10 years. And same with the helmets, 10 years. So I've categorized all that. So that way I know for asset management, when is a replacement period needed. So that way I can accurately reflect that in my budget. We also do, besides the bunker gear formatization, the SCBA checks, and the inspection. That's every Monday night. As soon as they walk in, I tell them, check your gear. And if you find anything, you let me know ASAP. Even if I'm not there, send me a text message in our group chat. Tell me what is going on, so that way I can get what they are asking. Also, for our specialized training, because we're in a very hot season right now, we are always preparing for wildland fire season in conjunction with the MNR. So I'm always got the guys, let's get ready, let's do some training. Okay, let's do some scenario based. What do we do? How do we attack? What angle do we come from? What do we need? So that way we have the equipment in case of we do get a forest fire. I don't want to get it out of control, whereas I have to call in the MNR and neighboring departments. I want to be able to forecast. I can get ahead of it, draw that line in the sand, say this is where our fire break's going to be. This is where we're going to stop it, and let's get to it. And I'm there with them with the shovels. I'll grab a shovel and I'll dig that ground out, because I'll show them that if I want them to do it, I have to be able to do it as well. So I'm out there as well every Monday night when we talk about wildland fire, and we're doing our gaps, find out, okay, where's our gap measures? Where are we lacking? How do we bring ourselves up? What training do we need? What information do we need? Who can I call to get some more information from? So that's why we're there for 3 hours on that part. I'm also preparing them, and I'm really proud of the firefighters we have, because they're working extremely hard on the NFPA certification. So the OFM has mandated date of July 1st, 2026, that all firefighters in the province of Ontario have to be certified to firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 standards. And that is a very tall order, especially for a volunteer department, just because our call volume isn't that high, and the amount of hours that is dedicated for those firefighters to meet those certification standards. So we're already ahead. I've already got a couple of guys that have already written their firefighter 1 written exams and passed. So now we're getting the firefighter 1 practical. So again, we're allocating, it's very regimented on our training session, is that 7 p.m. we walk in, we check our PPE, we sweep, we clean, then we check, then we go into scenario based, and then what are we going to work on today for the certification process. So that way I keep a log of what has to be done and what needs to be done. So that way everybody can be prepared that when East Ferris or West Nipissing or even Powassan are holding a testing session, we can get on board with them. I can send the guys down there to get their testing done. My updates, I have completed the regulatory and establishing bylaws, and I've submitted to CEO for review. So that is done for 2025. I regularly review, and this seems to be a bit of a hot topic in the area here with the fire rating. Yeah, it is, but that's okay, because I really enjoy when the residents call me, because they call me, they ask me why, and I'll explain the reasons why. Typically, it takes like a Monday, I did a total ban, and the reason why is when I look at our fire rating, I look at several factors. So I look at wind temperature, the temperature, humidity, wind speed, wind direction. And Monday I did the total ban just because of the state of our roads. There are some houses or structures on the roads that were washed out, and if there's a fire there, we cannot get to them. So that's why I instituted a ban until I get an update that all the roads within the municipality are usable. Then again, based on that criteria of temperature, humidity, wind direction, wind speed, and also what we call our fire load. So how dry is our forest out there? That's another thing I look at for the fire rating ban. Once I'm satisfied that that meets the criteria, I can lower it, I will definitely lower the ban. The one resident called me, was kind of concerned that maybe I put the ban up for the entire summer season. I'm like, oh no, that is reviewed on a daily basis. So, and that's what the residents are looking for. They're looking for explanation, right? So they call me and they're asking me, okay, why are you doing this? Like, what's going on? I will explain to them. I'll be on the phone as long as it takes until they're satisfied with reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. Today, I had a resident call me at the station. They are building on Shields Road and wanted to know some information for the insurance company. So I explained to them we're fully volunteered. There are no hydrants in the municipality. We actually have 2 dry hydrants, but for insurance reasons, we have no hydrants. Our water is all tanker shuttled in, and we respond to any call that is of 911. And that resident was very happy. He really thanked me. He goes, "Thank you so much. I really appreciate the information and help." I said to him, "You call me anytime, day or night. My number is on the website. You have any questions, you give me a call, and I'll definitely help them out." For fire prevention, our fire prevention is an ongoing topic. So every call that we responded to, once the emergency has mitigated, if we're in a private residence location, we'll check their smoke alarms, the C alarms to see, do they have the right amount of number of alarms? They're properly located, are they operating? And then we also talk about fire safety. So do you have a home escape plan? Talk about kitchen fires. Number 1 cause of fires in the home are kitchen fires, unattended cooking. We talk about, if you have a 2-story home and you have some kids, do you have a fire safety ladder they can use in order to escape from the 2nd story? So we're usually there after for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, depending if there's any questions by the residents. I've told the guys that if they, have other obligations that they can go, I will stay on scene. I will explain to the resident about fire safety, about what we're looking for. We need to be in compliance with the Ontario Fire Code as well as the Provincial Building Code that we have to be compliant with. And I'm getting a lot of great feedback from the residents because they're very happy that we're taking the time to explain why we're doing things that we're doing, and when it comes to the codes, why we're enforcing the codes. We tell them it's for your safety. The other thing we're talking about is the fire prevention officer is building a 2025 calendar of events. So that's our PR events. So already this year, we've already attended 5 PR events, and we have July 1st coming up. I'm gonna have almost my entire department there on July 1st. So I know we got 16, I'm anticipating at least 11 or 12 are gonna be there for the July 1st festivities.
Okay.
And then I just talked about the fire and cedar alarm inspection. Again, that is always ongoing. Again, when it comes to that, I want to make sure that the residents are protected. They usually ask me, what type of fire alarm should I buy? And I tell them, really, it's your personal decision. Kitty is usually one of the big ones in the industry. I said, you can go into any Consumer Reports website, read on it, find out, is this what's best for me? I said, all of them are, as long as they have the ULC listing on it, that they are regulated by the government of Canada, Underwriter Laboratories of Canada, that they meet the standards, that they can buy that product. And I said to them, when you buy that product, if you have any problems, installation, give me a call. We'll come out and we'll install it for you. I said, we'll show you how to install it. I said, we can't physically install it because then that puts the municipality in a liability issue if something were to occur. But I said, then we can definitely guide you into installing where to install the alarms. For community involvement, June 7th, we had a Brownfield Community Day with the fundraiser at the firehouse. Station 1 opening, at the dunk tank, the snow cone machine, that car wash. That was very well received by the residents when they showed up. They were very happy, engaged. We actually had a semi tractor trailer pull into the bay to get washed. So the guys were there for a little while watching that one. As I mentioned, July 1st, we have we'll have a fire prevention table set up at Canada Day celebrations. We'll have fire prevention literature there. We encourage the residents to come talk to us. We'll be there. You can ask us any questions. I always say to them, if you have a question, don't be afraid to approach us. Even if you want to call me, off to the side and just talk to me one-on-one, I'm always open to that as well. I want to make sure before you leave that you feel that your voice was heard, that we answered any of our questions and concerns that you had. And I find that that approach really leaves the resident very satisfied on what we're doing. What else do we have here? And that is it for the fire department.
That's a good report. Yeah, great report.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
You have a
So,
question?
you answered my question because I had asked, to explain why the fire ban is in place. And then what the criteria is. So the criteria is, I'm guessing that you're working with the public works manager then, and you're getting daily updates. So if that's the criteria to lift the ban, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The main criteria to lift the ban is that I want high humidity, so there's a lot of moisture in the air. I want a low temperature, and I want very low wind speed. Generally, wind speeds I want less than 15 kilometers an hour, and then also the wind direction as well.
Okay.
So,
And then that's all contingent on the roads being.
and that's on the roads are operational as well, yeah.
Yeah, right call, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, thank you.
There's no motion to accept the report? Okay, thank you. All right, next we have, there is a motion for the next one, and that's the Steel Rail Committee. And I'm going to ask for a recorded vote on this one. I just want to be sure. I think initially they came in and they were told that they had to pay $700 for their sign. And then they had to get a building permit fee. Then it turned out that no, they didn't need that. They didn't need a building permit and they didn't need to pay $700, right? So that's what this motion is, but I was asked if the whole council still supports it when they thought they had to pay this. So in order to make everybody happy, we'll go with the recorded vote.
Can I just explain that when the group first approached, all of the right standards and everything in the building code were followed. And then there's a section in the building code, which is quoted in this motion, that allows if a council, so it's your decision, if you deem that the sign is municipally significant, then it can be exempt from requiring a permit. So it's required until you pass the motion to say that it's not required.
It still was required?
It still is required. It's up to council to deem it, and that's what the motion will say. It's up to the council to deem it a municipally significant sign, and then the permit is waived. And that's under the building code.
Okay, am I misunderstanding? It depends on the size of the sign?
No, it depends. I mean, the fee and everything, yes, it depends on the sign, but on the size of the sign, but the permit itself, whether it's a yes or a no to a permit, depends on whether council approves the sign to be municipally significant.
But the permit costs $700, no matter the size of the sign.
Yeah, our building, we don't have a lower fee in our building permit fee for signage.
Okay,
So as the sign was described to our building official, that's what the fee would be.
okay, I thought the building official gave them a different idea on that it wasn't required because of the size of the sign. But I could have understood that as well. So if we can just go through with the motion, then recorded vote, if we could do that.
I'll need a mover and a seconder.
Can you read the motion for me, please?
Do we have a seconder?
Can you read the motion for me,
Read the motion.
please?
Read the motion first.
Yeah, I just want to hear it.
The motion would read that council for the Township of Bonfield receives the request and details for the installation of a sign promoting the future site of the museum from the Steel Rail Committee, and further that council grants permission for the sign to be installed as detailed, be placed in Rudder Glen Park with maintenance being performed by the Steel Rail Committee, and that this sign be deemed municipally approved as per section 3.15.1.2 1.e of the OBC Act, and therefore exempt from being required to obtain a building permit.
Okay. Can we have a mover and a second?
I have Councillor Featherstone as a mover.
Okay.
I will reread. Moved by Councillor Featherstone, seconded by Councillor Clark, that council for the Township of Bonfield receives the request and details for the installation of a sign promoting the future site of the museum from the Steel Rail Committee, and further that council grants permission for the sign to be installed as detailed, be placed in Rudder Glen Park, with maintenance being performed by the Steel Rail Committee, and that this sign be deemed municipally approved as per section 3.15.1.2 1.e of the OBC Act, and therefore exempt from being required to obtain a building permit. And as Mayor Paquette requested the recorded vote, I will start with.
I have questions.
I have a question.
Oh,
too.
sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
Just a couple of things. One, perhaps somebody can refresh my memory, but I don't actually remember this council deciding where the land is that we would actually be providing. First of all, we haven't actually deemed it to be that council would 100%. We have approved in a notion as a notion that we in principle that we would support this project, that we would look forward to seeing a more wholesome and fulsome business report, that they would have the tools and the resources necessary to be able to move this forward. And at that point, the municipality would engage with property, whether that is, we would be donating property or looking at a lease term. There was a number of options, but I don't actually recall this council picking a location. So I'm a bit confused on the future home of, so I don't get that. And then the only other comment I have is, our tool is to actually deem this as municipally significant to be able to waive the fee. I want to be supportive. It's a fine line to call this a municipally significant project at this point, I want to be supportive. So if this is what it takes to help them, I'm not opposed to it. It's just, it's a fine line when next requests come in, what do we deem municipally significant or not? So those are my questions, and I don't know if somebody can refresh my memory on the future home of how we got to be the point where a sign is going to be erected somewhere that we as council haven't chosen.
Yeah, and I mean, I was gonna ask the same question. I thought we were waiting on a business plan, like an accurate business plan, and to move forward on this. So, yeah, I'm not sure where this is coming from.
Did someone go out with them?
No.
Yeah, so forgive me, I'm not gonna remember dates. But I do remember that there was a report from the planning administrator in general. There was some area that was picked out between the church property, and the playground. So that section in there in Rutherglen Park, that section would be the ideal location. Exactly where on that section, we do not, that's not pinpointed. It's not a huge chunk of property, so we don't have the details. Or forgive me, but I don't think that we have the design and the standard and everything else to know that the museum that they propose is going to fit on that property. We don't have those things yet. I know they've started to do some fundraising, but I don't know that council has received an update on that.
Yeah,
progress
and
yet.
yeah, I mean, I thought we were waiting to get some information back from them before I moved any further.
I thought
So,
Alex had
No, I was just present with the planning administrators during the site visit, with the Steel Rails Committee.
So again, if we're talking about putting the cart before the horse, we're gonna, as council, look to approve and quite frankly, waive the fee of putting a future home of, when at best, maybe what we have is a recommendation from staff. We actually haven't passed this or dealt with it in any formal capacity. Is that correct?
Beyond a resolution to approve it in principle, no.
So I will just come back to, if we want to follow an appropriate process, I understand and I appreciate this group's enthusiasm to get this done, but if we want to follow an appropriate process, what we have asked of them is a business plan. Put the tools in your toolbox, get your resources together, come back, we'll work with you. We've already said we're happy to work with you to figure out where it best fits. Once they have resources, they're going to know the size of the building, they're going to know they're going to have hammered out exactly what it is that they're hoping to do with this site, which is great. That'll actually help inform our decision as to where we want to put it.
Right.
So I just feel like we're pigeonholing ourselves to approve a sign as the future home of, when we actually haven't, that we don't know that that is actually the future home of that museum, right?
We haven't discussed all the properties.
Right.
So.
Well, I don't think it was a specific location. I think it was just to put it up in the park that I don't think there was a designated spot, right? I don't know because I haven't been part of it, but
you could read that two ways. You could say future home of is right here, or future home is Longfield, right? And they're picking the park to display their sign.
it's just, it's not a big sign, and I haven't seen that neither.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, we shouldn't be putting a sign up.
I would be okay with a sign. I thought about this the other day when I got my package. I'd be more comfortable with a sign saying something like fundraising initiatives, please support, somewhere for people to go, like a website, to kind of get more information as opposed to
Future home.
stating future home.
'Cause it-
Like I'm fine with them advertising and trying to get the ball rolling and trying to, create some fundraising and some following for them. And I think that's all they're really trying to do with the sign. So I think maybe changing the wording a little bit would, kind of satisfy kind of both groups.
Yeah, but they still haven't come back to us with the proper budget and.
I
business
don't
plan.
think at this point, if you don't know what size your lot is, what you're going to have, it's pretty hard to come back here with a budget. And I think they have to start somewhere to go fundraising. And if they want the township people to say, well, this is the home, this is where they're going to put a museum eventually, I don't think there's a specific location, and I could be wrong about that. I don't think there's a specific location picked out. I think what they want to do is start fundraising. I think they were at the Case Populaire, and they gave them funding, I think, when we had the fire car wash and that. So I don't think it's putting any specific spot. I think it's here, there's a sign in the park, this is what they hope, and they start fundraising. Maybe they'll see where, if they have money coming in, what will happen if they can't get it. I believe this group is they're going to work on it to try and get it. So I could support it, even though, and I'm supporting it with no specific location. And I say, I don't know what size the museum would be. What is the budget going to be? And as they progress and maybe get funding, they're going to be able to come back with, this is how much money we're able to raise. This is what size of building we could put up. Where could we put the building? That's what I think. I'm not sure.
But how is it municipal significant? I mean, I don't see where that comes into play. That it's municipal significant to.
Sorry. Having a museum here would be municipally significant. People would come to see it, right? So it would draw people here eventually if their goal is actually achieved.
But the challenge, I will just say again, is what we don't know, and they're asking us to do this. What they haven't done is scoped out their own project yet. So sure, they need a piece of property to be able to scope what size, but we don't know if it's like, where are they going to land? What does this look like from their perspective? How municipally significant is it? Does it end up being a monument? Is it a full-on museum? Is it a walking tour? There's a million different aspects here, which again, all great. And I'm not trying to by any means take away from the great work that this community is doing, or that this group is doing. And I think it is a good idea that this community and this council stand behind and say, yes, in principle, we 100% will look to support this group with a piece of property. I feel like they're asking us to do all of our work up front, like and I take your point, your worship, and maybe this isn't, the future home of sign doesn't have to mean that it's the future home of, potentially, but it just feels as though we're getting all the pressure, when really, in my opinion, the pressure still lies with that committee to come and show us what it is that you're hoping to, that not just hoping to achieve, what it is that you have the ability to achieve. Where are they at with any other funding applications? Where has their business plan gone through? Are they working with provincial and federal funding agencies that potentially would look at a project like this? I just feel like, a sign, quite frankly, a future home of the museum isn't the biggest first step they need to take. We're still talking about the dream of it. I get it. And I appreciate it from a fundraising standpoint. Perhaps it's the wording that I'm hooked on, that it's the future home of, I agree with Councillor Featherstone. If this is an advertising sign to be able to help support it and help the fundraising efforts, I'm all for it. Like, and it can go on municipal property. It follows these standards. Happy to even, support the $700 waiving of the fee. Like, I'm happy to do all of that. I just don't appreciate the feeling as though we're being pigeonholed into this piece of property when, quite frankly, we haven't gone through a good due diligence process as council.
Right. And I think maybe defer until they come back with the information that we're asking for.
I would be comfortable to defer this until the next meeting. I would have liked to have a representative here so we could actually have some of this conversation. So perhaps CAO Kunkel, if you could reach out and see if a representative or two would be here willing to come to council to speak to this, then perhaps we can come up with, what is the wording on the sign gonna be? Like, it is going on municipal property. I don't want to get us into a position of pigeonholing us, but I want to continue to be supportive. So I think there's a dialogue that quite frankly needs to happen here.
So you want to defer it then?
If, but not for a long period of time, just to the next council meeting. Like, I'm
Or,
not-
you know,
Yeah,
they need
whenever
to-
they're ready, quite
Yeah,
frankly,
like-
yeah,
I mean,
to come forward and have that conversation.
Okay,
I don't know if anybody else, like, that's just my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm fine with deferring it and getting the wording of the sign right. I'm fine with the sign going up. 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, whenever we can,
Sure.
as long as the wording's sound, right?
Okay, deferred to next meeting.
okay. Okay, so next we go. Oh, next we need to declare a state of emergency.
Feels a little, speaking of backwards, that feels a little backwards.
Isn't that a little bit backwards? 4 days later. Okay, can I have a mover and second there?
Moved by Counselor Corbett, seconded by Counselor Featherstone, whereas a state of emergency was declared on June 22nd, 2025, after a significant rainstorm caused severe damage to municipal roads, and whereas the municipality will apply for assistance from the province under the Municipal Disaster Recovery Assistance Program. Therefore, any expenses not covered by the Disaster Relief Fund will be recovered through the township's reserve funds for emergency contingencies.
All in favor? Okay.
We don't want to talk about the emergency or?
Well, you can talk about it after, but we need to pass that.
It was carried, sorry.
Yeah.
You can talk about it, whatever you want to talk about.
I guess we will have a debrief then. There will be, I'm sure you're doing hot washes. You're still at your business cycle stage,
Yes.
right? So there'll be a hot wash when it's done, and then we will do a formal debrief.
Yes, so we are still in a state of emergency right now. Our meeting was at 10 o'clock this morning, our last emergency operating center for the control group was at 10 o'clock this morning. It is at 10 o'clock again tomorrow morning to reassess where we are. But
Do you send sit reps to the PIOC then?
I don't think that we have, but we had EMO they've been at our meetings.
Okay.
So they are updating them for sure. Emergency management will probably be, the word is escaping me, not deployed, and not dismissed, but she'll be, she won't be here anymore. She'll just be virtual. I'm sorry. That's my brain working on 2 hours of sleep.
I know, that's okay.
She's not deployed, but
She'll be virtual.
yes,
Okay.
she won't be unseen anymore. So
Yeah,
she'll
yeah.
just be virtual. And we've been keeping her up to date. She's been very helpful with,
Is that a field officer?
yes,
Who's our field
Diane
officer?
Foss. Yeah, so she's been here. We've had, I think, 4 or 5 meetings now. We're working through that process. We're doing the updates on Facebook. I'm texting council as much as, or emailing council as much as we have those updates to report, but the manager is here if we want to have an update on the roads, because I need an update from my Facebook update. So.
We've still got a lot of damage control to do. I mean, staff have been working very hard, clean up this mess, but, like I said, we still got a long road ahead of us. As for most of our roads, they're passable. I wouldn't say they're in good shape, but we're trying. I'd say that we're 100% still in a state of repair. As for our major washout areas like Pine Lake, Talon Lake, those have been filled. Today we were just capping Pine Lake, with some A gravel and doing some remediation work to there. I mean, we haven't got as far as we thought we would, but we've kind of expelled all our resources. We've had every single staff member from casuals to former employees in. We've had municipalities like East Ferris that offered us a backhoe and a truck the other day. Nipissing Township's been here the past 2 days helping us out.
So that would be Councillor McGinnis, right?
Correct.
Or not Councillor McGinnis, that would be Dan McGinnis, not Councillor McGinnis, right?
His council gave permission.
Yes, yes.
They've had 3 trucks, a grader as well, which has been great because we've kind of switched everything up. So we've had broken everything up into some crews, right? So I've got one crew on Pine Lake. I've got my contractor crew, DeGagne's been here. They're over on Talon Lake. And then I've got my in-house crew, which is in-house staff. They've been out trying to tend to some of the back roads that, you know, have been kind of neglected. Filling in that. And I mean, I think the biggest thing that we've accomplished is that Sunday we had every laneway that was, you know, a municipal address within the township filled in so that people can get in and out of their homes. And the roads were passable up to 1 lane. I'm not saying that they were in great shape. I'm just saying they were passable. We still have McNutt to do. So we've rebuilt the existing infrastructure on Talon Lake and added some ditching and water flow kind of upgrades. I won't say upgrades because they're not upgrades because the existing infrastructure washed away. So we're just got another crossroad culvert on Talon Lake. We still need a lot of gravel down there. There's still some soft spots, washouts. I know today crews worked real hard to get Boxwell Road fixed up, and we've had another significant washout this evening down there where the gravel's sunk, the water's still flowing, so it's coming across the road again. We've noticed quite a few potholes or sinkholes popping up throughout the township as kind of the water dissipates. Yeah, I mean, moving forward, our plan tomorrow is to finish the crossroad culvert on Talon Lake, and then DeGagne is going to move over to McNutt so we're going to remove all that excess material that's in there, rebuild the road base because it is absolutely horrible. It's all blue clay underneath, and then there's a section of old recycled asphalt or tire and chip on top, so that was actually buried underneath the road. The guardrails are exposed, so we have to reinforce those. Probably add some piling to that. And then we're hoping to take out the material that's there, reapply material, and have that road open by the end of the week. So.
And I think that this, you know, the 100-year storm is now the 5-year storm, right? So that I think when we do our HIRA, this is probably the #1 thing on our HIRA. So
yeah, and I mean, if I could, I'd really like to thank the staff here, the mayor, council, for all your guys' help, the fire chief, Andre especially, and then my staff in public works have been amazing. I mean, they've worked the last 4 days nonstop.
yeah, and the heat, and then we've added the heat now.
I haven't had one complaint from one staff member.
Yeah.
As well as neighboring municipalities, like I said, helping out, contractors that dropped everything to come in and give us a hand, and community members too. They've been very understanding, you know. They get that we're tied up. We can't make it everywhere. We've got limited resources. So
Yeah, I think everything's progressed way quicker than what I could imagine. Like,
oh, sorry, yeah, I forgot to mention calendar today too. That's me running off 2 hours.
Yeah.
when I seen everything like Saturday night, Sunday morning, and you know, I thought this was going to be a long, drawn out process, but you guys are hammering it out quick with obviously calling in a lot of extra backup and help. And like the heat's been atrocious. I'm super busy this time of year, just trying to work on my own property, and I've shut it down a couple days in a row. So to be out and being do roads and stuff like that and this is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, a real credit to your staff, Alex. I mean, you've really turned Public Works around, and it's a real credit to you and your staff for
Thanks.
accomplishing what you accomplished.
Well, I think it's
Appreciate it.
truly a team effort because
Yes,
we've got
well,
Andre, Cassandra,
yeah.
Christina, Simon and Mike in the office because day-to-day work has to continue, right?
I mean, so just a quick little blurb, like today, right? We had every single piece of equipment, every single truck out. We had a truck breakdown that Wayne Vester dropped everything he was doing to come out here and fix. H.E. Brown dropped everything they were doing to come out and deliver parts. And then we had Wayne pick some parts up and there was parts missing, and Andre actually went to North Bay to grab parts to get
Did
us
you give her
back.
pictures of the parts?
Is Andre carrying them? Yeah.
Or-
I mean, it's been a full team effort.
Sure,
right?
so,
So
and that's great, that's what, we've been trying to build, and it shows
Yeah, it's
that
paying
we've
off.
successfully done it.
Yeah, I'll just, if I could, your worship, I'll add, I mean, I had the opportunity to go, for a bit of a tour yesterday with Alex and see some of the damage firsthand. See many of the men and women that are out, getting this work done, and it was, pretty heartening, to see all that great work. I think if anybody has 15 dump trucks with operators, we could probably use that. It's interesting, like, I mean, unfortunately, it's just so long to go get material, right? So it's that turnaround that it'd be much faster if we could just get like more trucks going, but it is what it is, so.
saying trucks, I forgot about Evan Hughes as well. They've been a big part in
Yeah.
hauling material out too. So,
Yeah, so.
I mean, I'm sure I've missed people, but
Oh, of course.
there's an extensive list. It's just-
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll put a list out,
Oh, for
thanking, everybody, so yeah, we get that you guys are running on a couple hours sleep, so.
Well, and I think it's more than just the staff as well. It's your spouses who have stepped up too. I mean, I know that Dan and Mel were actually out on Saturday night, like doing the inspection of the roads. Now, if I were out doing the inspection of the roads.
She would
I
still be
would
lost.
You'd be in North Bay.
Right, so I
Might have called Dan for.
Yeah. So I think it's like we're so fortunate that we have this talent here and they're willing to, go at 2 a.m. or whatever time you got up to go out and look at the roads. So
And I mean, too, like, I'm a very strong believer, what goes around comes around, and, all these municipalities, people and that have helped us out. I'm sure sooner or later, they'll
Oh,
be
you
reaching
will.
out or asking for a hand.
And
too,
we'll be there.
And we'll be there,
Yeah.
right? So.
And I just, as the mayor alluded to earlier, I was in the park on the weekend, so I was in the heart of Champlain Park, and it was pretty awesome to see. The next day, I had to go to the office and walked right past our Bonfield Fire Department truck, right there, giving a hand in the park. So kudos to the fire
Oh,
department
good.
for stepping up, and I was pretty proud walking
Yeah,
past the truck,
yeah.
going, "Yeah, that's the
Yeah, that's
Bonfield
me,
guys."
that's me,
Yeah. No, it's not me.
Yeah.
I was the guy getting rescued.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, great team effort.
Yeah, for sure.
Did we get any confirmation if it was a tornado that touched?
No, they called it a microburst today.
Microburst, okay.
Yeah.
Having lived through it, microbursts are just as powerful as tornadoes. A whole lot of trees coming flying at us, so, yeah.
I can bring us back to the
Sorry.
reality of the emergency. I know we're still in recovery. I know we're still responding. I know there's still lots of things to do. From a ministry point of view, we have talked to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing about the disaster relief program that's in there. I'm trying to gather as much information as we can to have the minister, because they have to deem this event for all of the areas that we've declared emergencies. So they have to deem the event a significant event in order to open up the applications. And then those applications, then we can apply for those applications. It's still very strict eligibility on what those expenses will be. So we've been keeping some really great documentation on what that is. Like Dan and Mel went out and did, Councillor McGinnis and his spouse went up and they, at 2:30 in the morning when I called because Jason was trapped. When they did the patrol, we had that started the documentation. So we knew the roads, and then we went back out that afternoon and we did another assessment on the roads and the patrol. So we have that's when we put out like 110 markers between the signs, someone TransCanada Safety bringing us more pylons because we ran out of everything to mark these signs. That's the critical information that we have to submit into the ministry. And then we have to go through to say, okay, it's fixed, and when was it fixed? And then we know too that we have all of the pieces to be fixed. It does require that we have to be at least 3% of our own source revenue. So that 3% is $105,000. we are well
Above
above.
that, yeah,
She might
yeah.
spend that today with us alone.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, that's just one day of the
Yeah, yeah,
event, maybe.
That was
Yeah.
gone Sunday.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So we're hopeful that that application will get in there. We're also talking to some private, property owners have come in, some private road associations have come in to say, hey, I've had this much damage to my road. Like, this is beyond us. What can we do?
Yeah.
You know, again, we can't do anything because it's a private road and our crew is at capacity. We can't do.
You're over capacity.
We're over capacity. That's why we have so many good people helping us. And of course, our policies and rules and stuff, but we need their information, and we're still forwarding any information we get from the private citizens up to the ministry as well, because there's two components of this funding. There's one that's a municipal recovery assistance, and then there's one for the private recovery. So we are still, you know, if anyone does have any knowledge of anyone else that has them, send them in. We need to get their information. They can email me, they can talk to me. And then I send that out. It just builds the story of how significant this.
Documentation is key, right?
Absolutely.
So in any emergency, you start with your documentation and you do it in the moment, because 2 days later, you don't remember what happened 2 days ago. So pictures help, you know.
We've been,
Well-
the staff, everyone has
Yeah.
been tremendous about that.
So for the.
I need an
private
Apple
sector,
phone because they're tired of taking the documentation from my
I
Android.
told Andrew.
And they have to convert.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
how
I
to
mean,
survive.
just to give some, to dump 50 loads in a hole, just to kind of get it up to grade, like
Yeah.
that is significant.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, but
That's
that's
good.
the information that we have to submit in.
Yeah,
It has, you know, I
Sure.
mean, very easy for us to approve, to see that this is an extraordinary expense and an extraordinary response that's required. But now we have to prove that through documentation to the minister. So we're certainly doing that. I think that we're building that story. It's not a story, it's just reality.
Yeah. yeah.
But, you know, this motion does allow us to, because we know it's going to exceed. It does allow us, we have to pay all the expenses ahead of the grant actually coming in. So it could be months before we
Oh,
receive the
it's
money back.
months. Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
be a while.
Yeah, so just so everyone's aware of how that process works.
And there's always lessons learned, right? Your worship, we were on a
yeah.
podcast today, and she was telling the story as she was getting ready to come in at 2 a.m. to declare the state of emergency. Her power is off. She has a beautiful flashlight with no batteries.
Brand new. And then look at my head. I ran into, she said, well, we'll go over right away. Okay. And I'm getting out of my pajamas. I ran into the door because I had no power.
Oh,
And
God.
the only thing I had was my phone, and it was almost dead. So I couldn't see where I
On Canada Day, if you wanted to swing by the fire department's booth, they can help you out with
You know what you're getting for Christmas from all of us now.
lots of batteries.
Yeah,
Was a very, very nice flashlight though. And
Fit really well in my hand.
no battery. So did we pass this or what did we do?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just passed.
It was
Okay, carried, right?
Yes.
Okay, where are we going next? Okay, a number of resolutions here. We need a mover and a seconder to establish tax ratios. Mover and seconder. Nobody wants to do it.
I got my hand up.
Yeah, well, these two did it. So, yeah.
Moved by Counselor McInnes, seconded by Counselor Featherstone, that council for the Township of Bondfield hereby adopts bylaw 2025-27, being a bylaw for establishing tax ratios for the year 2025 as presented and is considered read 3 times and passed this 24th day of June, 2025.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have another one to adopt the operating budget. Mover and a seconder. Jason and Donna.
Moved by Counselor Clark, seconded by Counselor Corbett, that council for the Township of Bonnfield hereby adopts bylaw 2025-28, being a bylaw to adopt the 2025 operating budget, including estimates of all sums required for the purposes of the municipality during the year 2025, and to establish the tax rates to be levied as presented, and is considered read 3 times and passed the 24th day of June, 2025, sorry.
All in favor? Carried. Next, we have bylaw 2025, deeming bylaw, Perron. Mover and a seconder.
Moved by Councillor McInnes, seconded by Councillor Clark. Whereas council deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session, be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to deem part of registered plan 36M510 in the Township of Bonnfield to be a registered plan of subdivision for the purposes of section 50-4 of the Planning Act, as presented, and is considered read 3 times and passed this 24th day of June, 2025.
All in favor? Carried. Next, I need a mover and a seconder. It's from the Integrity Commissioner report. So we have a motion.
The Integrity Commissioner representative is also on Zoom. Thanks for bearing with us throughout the meeting.
No problem.
Oh,
Moved by Councillor McInnes, seconded by Councillor Corbett, that council for the Township of Bonnfield receives the IC report 2025-002 McDonald, and further that council accepts the report and recommendations of the IC.
okay.
So I'll just say that I am sorry that he felt that way. It was not my intent. And I look forward to better communications in the future.
I mean, the only thing I got to say is I choose not to hide behind a keyboard. I'd rather talk things out face to face. So if Mr. McDonald found it uncomfortable to talk things out face to face, I apologize.
So what do you have with the motion?
The motion states that council for the Township of Bonnfield receives the IC report 2025-002 McDonald, and further that council accepts the report and recommendations of the IC.
Okay. Yeah, you can't vote on it, right? Or,
I think everybody can
Well,
vote
yeah,
on
we
it.
can
Yeah.
vote.
no,
No, I'm not voting on it.
You don't,
Yeah.
you should vote on it.
Okay, yeah, fair
I'll
enough.
vote to accept.
you can speak to it.
Oh, I vote to accept it as well. But if I don't have to vote, that's
Okay,
Well, then we need to move the mover probably then.
Yeah, I didn't move that.
It's probably Councillor Featherstone.
Would you like me to read it again with the movers and seconders?
No.
No? Okay.
okay. All in favor? Carried. There are recommendations from the Integrity Commissioner report. With respect to an apology to the complainant. One of the things was reprimand, and one of the things I would like to say is ask all council or and especially Donna and Dan, that when you are representing yourself personally, don't hand out your business card for the Township of Bonnfield, because you are actually representing the Township of Bonnfield when you do that. And that's what I have to say. Jason?
No, I think both have offered the apology and did that in comments. So, I think what we are passing is, or voting on is that we accept the report and the recommendations. I believe we lost our representative.
No, the video's just off.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Oh,
Yeah, so they just,
okay.
yep.
okay. Steve?
No, I think it's, we're always in the public between going to events and living our normal daily lives. And, I've been approached by many people in the municipality as I'm running programs for kids, or as I'm doing a reptile show, or as I'm working security at a bar or whatever. And I think the nice thing about this council is everybody is very approachable, easy to talk to. If people have an issue, they can come and talk to us at any point in time. There is lines that get blurred when either side are at their place of employment as well.
Carried.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Passed.
All in favor, sorry. All in
That was
favor,
already passed.
carried. Okay. Next we have, another motion. Is he gone again?
Yes, the video's off.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
gone.
now he's gone.
Okay.
He's like,
Never
I
got
sat
the-
there for this long for that, yeah.
Ever disappearing. Okay, where are we going? With the, there's a motion.
For Bruce County, yes.
Okay, do we have a mover and seconder?
Moved by Counselor Clark, seconded by Counselor Featherstone, that council for the Township of Bonnfield supports the County of Bruce, calling on the federal and provincial governments to take action to ensure that municipalities have the tools they need to protect Canadian consumers and businesses to ensure the continued prosperity of the Canadian economy.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have another motion. It's with respect to, supporting municipal ethics through access and education. And we agreed to support that as well. Do we have a mover and a seconder?
Moved by Counselor Corbett, seconded by Counselor Featherstone, that council for the Township of Bonnfield supports the District of Perry Sound Municipal Association, calling upon the Ontario government to provide free access to information so that councils can be effective in their role in our democratic system.
All in favor? Carried. Next we have, correspondence, and this is correspondence from the Voyager 200, a request for donation. And we do have some funds remaining. And could I have a mover and a seconder?
Excuse me, Mayor Paquette, I think Alex has something to say.
Oh,
Sorry, if I could, I just wanted to add this in. I figured I'd bring it up here. I'm just looking for I'm gonna submit a recommendation to council. I'm just looking for you guys' approval if it's possible that we close the municipal landfill site tomorrow, between 4 and 7 p.m. I won't have enough staff and they'll be in way past, their allotted time here. I won't be able to keep them for a full 12 hours to go back to the landfill. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some residents not happy about it, but I mean, given that we're in a state of emergency and the roads have been our priority, I feel like, this is the right thing to do instead of exhausting staff to their absolute limits, for up 3-hour landfill shed.
so you would like to close the emergency?
No,
No.
I would like to close the landfill site.
Oh, the landfill.
Tomorrow,
Oh,
Just tomorrow
okay.
from
Just
4 to 7,
just
not
tomorrow
open.
between 4 and 7 p.m.
And how would we get the word out that
Yeah,
people aren't going there with it?
communication, yeah. How do we do that?
So we have our Facebook and we have our website. We can see if we can get it out to the radio stations.
Yeah, I would think,
Yeah,
try
we-
like the local radio station.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I mean, we can also put a sign up on the gate.
Or
What's the public works phone number?
Yeah, it'd be nice to get a sign made, to put at the four corners in development and, you know,
Mm.
a couple other spots to say landfill closed Wednesday night.
I know it's last minute. It's
Yeah.
just after
No,
we've
no,
been the last 3 days running
Yeah,
16 to 18 hours.
maybe fire can put it on their site as well, and library, they'll have library do
Yeah.
it, fire. We just need to blitz, because it's about not knowing, right? People are gonna show up and be
Yeah.
angry, but if they know, so every Facebook that we can have, that sends the message out, I think we need to do
Yeah, I
that.
think the everything bond field and,
Yeah, yeah.
like, we're gonna have to figure out how to
Hmm.
get that word. Now, I guess my only other question for that would be, because we are in a state of emergency, there is options to redeploy other options, whether that's volunteers, whether that's like, you know, the, obviously very respectful of the union, but it does provide us an option to make sure that we're not exhausting and taking out those resources that are highly skilled on the roads and putting them at the landfill needlessly. So I don't know if there's other options to be able to.
I mean, if anybody
Keep
has
it
any
open.
recommendations for
Jason, I
trained
volunteer
individuals
Jason.
to work at the landfill site for the 3
Well,
hours.
And I think if you do go that way, you'd probably have to waive tipping fees because volunteers are not gonna know how to. And,
Okay, that's a
The
bad
tipping
idea.
fees are-
Like, I don't know how to pull that together so quickly.
yeah, I mean, that's, you know, it's a good
I
idea.
should have made the call on Sunday, but I
Yeah,
didn't.
you got a lot of
things to think about. Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it'll be one of the things in our debrief.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you get volunteers, you just waive the tipping fees for that night and
Thank you.
I don't know. It's not the greatest idea, but it's an idea.
Thank you. I need some sweetening up to it.
Yeah, is that an option, that maybe we?
Is it a smart option? It's an option. It's a
Find
smart
some
option.
volunteers. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you gotta be trained and. like,
Yeah.
I would just
Short
It's more of a
close-
liability.
Just close the
I think.
landfill
Yeah, I
for
think
3
it's
hours.
more of a
for what-
liability.
I mean.
I think
it's
people will
not-
understand.
Not like it's the Saturday.
It's
shift,
only
it's
for
the full day.
Wednesday.
Right.
It's for 3 hours on a Wednesday.
Not
no different than
Saturday.
any other day in the week.
Yeah. for
I agree.
So
I mean, I'm in, you know, I'd close the landfill Wednesday night.
I've got a lot of stuff lined up for tomorrow
Yeah.
that I need my staff for.
No, of course, that's priority. I'm not questioning the decision or the recommendation.
Yeah, no.
As a priority, I just wanted to spitball the idea.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
If we make a motion, I mean, I'm supportive of closing it.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion for that?
I believe so.
Oh,
We should.
Yeah,
Yeah, why not?
Andre, you got one written up already?
Hey, why not?
Yes, so I will just, it's very plain and
Right,
simple.
let up.
No.
That the landfill site be closed Wednesday, June 2025 due to emergency circumstances.
Good. Yeah,
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Nice.
All of our landfill crew have been on the road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
We've
no.
seen
They're
them.
all.
Yeah, doing
Yeah,
fantastic work. Awesome.
Absolutely.
But what did you say?
What I will repeat,
Okay,
moved by Counselor Clark, seconded by Counselor Corbett, that the landfill site be closed Wednesday, June 2025 due to emergency circumstances.
and we don't have to say that you put it on the radio or anything?
No, I think that's just our implementation.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Just for a sign of solidarity or support, can I call for a recorded vote, please?
Jason's always gonna be difficult.
Sorry, Andre. In case the meeting hasn't been long enough yet. At least it's nice and cool in here.
We knew that this meeting was going to be long.
I know.
I know you can stare at me on one.
It's hot is why I'm staring at you, not the length of the meeting.
I think I actually had goosebumps.
No, that's
All
already
right.
possible.
It was actually kind of cool here for the first time
Well,
ever.
yeah, for the first 6 minutes of the meeting.
I didn't have control of the air conditioning.
We gotta buy Andre something now.
Yeah.
A parka.
I'll send it out to my group chat and I'll get
Yes.
the guys to spread the word, so.
Yeah, social
Thank
media
you,
or whatever.
thank you,
That's
thank
perfect,
you.
thanks.
Yeah,
Okay, Counselor Clark, yes or nay?
yes.
Counselor Corbett,
Yes.
Mayor Paquette.
Yeah.
Counselor Featherstone,
Yes.
Counselor
Yes.
McInnes. Carried.
Okay,
Thank you.
motion is carried, yeah. Next, we have,
Sorry, your worship, can we go back to Voyager 200?
yes, that's where I was going. Is there, do you have a motion for that?
This is
I
correspondence.
have one written down, yes.
Not here.
No,
What?
it's here. I will, this is what the council approves a donation to Voyager 200 in the amount of,
200.
I think they've asked for 500.
They have a 500. What is
We
our,
have 200.
We have 500 in the budget.
Do we have
We do,
500?
they've asked for 500. I think it's the Voyager 200. That's
Yeah.
their name.
yes,
Yeah,
that's the
Voyager
name.
200,
That's their
they've
name.
asked
They're
for
not
500.
asking for
We
200.
have
They're asking for
200.
500.
Yeah. I think council normally donates $200 to most organizations. So when we first talked about it, we said 200.
So do we
That's
want
been
to?
the typical. The only one that we did the 500
Was
to
the
was
bond. Yeah,
the Egg Culture Society because they have a celebration this year.
yeah,
Oh, okay. So
yeah, I do 200.
You good with 200?
yeah.
Yeah, 200.
Sure, absolutely.
Could I get a mover and a
Okay.
seconder, please?
All in favor? All in favor?
Oh, hopefully. The mayor wants to get out of here. Wrap it up, everyone.
She's on 5 hours.
Okay,
I will read the motion.
Oh, I think we all voted.
Moved by Councillor McInnes, seconded by Councillor Clark, that council approves a donation to Voyager 200 in the amount of $200.
all in favor? Carried. There, we did it right. The next one is, this was, we will put this on our agenda for next week. The Township of Gwillimbury,
Yeah.
or do
Yeah.
you want to
Nope.
support it
Next
now?
week.
No,
is
no, no.
totally
Next
fine.
week is fine. And then the other one is just for information.
That's west, east, that's west.
Does anybody want
Do
to
you
talk
really
about
care?
that insurance?
Has it, yeah, it was a great presentation. I just don't, has anybody actually spoken to the organizers of the farmer's market or the organizer of the farmer's market? Fully aware and understanding of
I
the
think that they're
limitations?
aware that, in order for the township to cover the farmer's market, it would have to be a committee of council. And then council and staff would have to manage that, or certainly have say on the executive for sure. But it still doesn't cover the vendors. So I think there's two issues with the farmer's market insurance that she brought, that the vendors don't want to, they find it difficult to pay for the insurance. And that would not go away if we went through that program. And then the other one is who leads it and who does it. And I don't know that we have the capacity to take that on. But certainly those conversations continue, but it is.
The only thing I can say to it is, the cost of doing business is having adequate insurance. And people making products out of their house, God forbid something negative happened, they would lose a lot more than $15 each time they showed up to the farmer's market rate. It's to cover them as much as it's to cover anybody else. And it's a necessary evil, but $15 per showing is not substantial in my mind.
I concur. I don't know a great way. It was very clear what our insurance agent told us. So unfortunately, from my opinion, it's just not an option to explore as a municipality. If we can find other ways to be able to help support the farmers market, happy to talk about that. But I don't think this is the avenue that we can go down. So.
But I took it that we were covered with insurance for the property. I think their concern was somebody fell and broke their leg or
That's covered.
in
That's covered as
our
it is.
event, but we're covered
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
But we can't help it if somebody cooks something and somebody got sick. That's not our problem, right? And that's, if they're
Yeah.
selling or then they would have to, I think it's reasonable that they provide the insurance for their business.
Okay, great.
Oh, any closed session?
Sorry, your worship, could we accept the correspondence?
Pardon?
Could we accept the correspondence?
Oh, sure.
Could I? Moved by Counselor Clark, seconded by Counselor Corbett, that council receives the correspondence circulated with the agenda of June 24th, 2025.
All in favor? Carried. And then we go to closed session,
None for this evening.
confirmatory bylaw.
A mover and a seconder. Moved by Counselor Featherstone, seconded by Counselor McInnes, that the council for the Township of Bonfield hereby adopts bylaw 2025-29 to confirm the proceedings of council from June 10th, 2025 to June 24th, 2025, as presented and is considered read 3 times and passed this 24th day of June, 2025.
All in favor? Carried. Next, we have adjournment. Anybody want to adjourn?
Yes,
Recorded vote.
please. Yeah.
All in favor?
Thanks, David.
I didn't even read the motion.
Oh, I didn't let her read.
Yeah.
I'm so tired.
Moved by Counselor Corbett, seconded by Counselor Clark, that this meeting be adjourned at
9:28.
Now, are you guys all in favor? Carried.
Okay.
you gonna hit your gavel?
No.
No.
Whoops.